One video and 2 productivity sprints. I guess it'll have to do, right? Cheers. Welcome back, everybody, to Monday's day drinking session, also known as Weekly Navel-Gazing, where we talk about all the books I read last week and all the books I plan to read this week and all the videos I didn't make last week and all the videos I plan to make this week or something of that sort, as always. So let's get started with books I read last week. And there were quite a few, which, I think is good. So I did read Like a Rough Stone Rolling, Joseph Smith biography by Richard Lyman Bushman, which is long and detailed, and I read that one. And then I did also read No Man Knows My History, another Joseph Smith biography by Fawn Brodie from 1945, 1946. It had a huge impact on the LDS Church and is a much more critical biography. There are obviously problems with it because it's older. Brodie didn't have that much access as Lyman Bushman had, Richard Lyman Bushman had, so there is all of that, but I figured both are important to have a bit more nuance on our good buddy Joseph Smith. Now, what else did I read? I did, in fact, also read by Joseph Smith's Gold Plates, A Cultural History by, once again, Richard Lyman Bushman, and that is, it's just a cultural history of the idea of the gold plates that were used to, translated into the Book of Mormon according to LDS doctrine, and were maybe an invention or something else according to other people. And it just was an interesting addition, sort of, to what could or could not, turn out to be a good video, and it was interesting, is my point. What else did I read? I did read a book called Prophet's Prey by Sam Brower, which focuses on one specific part of the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is very much a cult, and it's the kind of more lurid kind of book that talks about all the polygamy and child marriages and all the other awful shit that is going on with those kind of cults. I don't think it will be very helpful for the Mormonism video as such, because I will focus mostly on mainline LDS Mormonism, I guess. But I did want to, have at least some sort of look at those other outlying kind of things that a lot of, criticism of Mormonism on the internet sometimes devolves into or focuses on, because it is just way more, impressive because it is such, dark shit in a lot of ways. I read that. I did not like the book that much because there's a very reactionary tone to that book that leads to some very troubling sort of consequences, but that's probably to be expected from a LDS member who is also a private investigator and pretty conservative, to put it mildly, I guess. And there's all the lawmen are really good and the state is always really corrupt, and I'm like, I don't know if that is the real truth there. Doesn't obviously in any way, shape or form excuse anything that the FLDS cult has done to anyone, so don't get me wrong there, but I think it's one of those troubling things where you realize that there are parts of conversations that have been so poisoned or taken over by parts of what you might call the larger culture wars that it's very difficult to sort of engage with them without being drawn into that. So that's something I read, and I don't know. It was free on Audible, so whatever. Then I did read The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne, because I wanted to finish the Bloodsworn saga, and I have done so. Finally, I'm glad it's over. I made a video on it, so there's that. And then I did read, because I really like positive, good things and fun things to read, I did read, just finished, Wild Faith, How the Christian Right is Taking Over America by Talia Levin, and it's a really good book. It'll make you angry. It's very frightening and dark in, as a topic, may lead you to expect, but it's a necessary book and it's an important book. There, I just finished it. It also has 2 Terry Pratchett quotes in it, or references in it, so that's a good thing, I think. So that's where I'm at with reading right now. The question then is, of course, what will I read next? Well, there's a couple more Mormonism books, but I want to start working on the video while slowly finishing up that sort of backlog. And there is, of course, the Like a Fiery Meteor, a biography of Joseph F. Smith. That one is the next thing I'm going to read, I think. Then there is a book called The September 6 and The Fight for the Soul of Mormonism by Sarah Hampton Campbell, whatever. I'm missing the name here. Anyway, that one I also want to read because, you know, those of you who know who the September 6 are, you know, probably understand why this is important. Put it quickly. The September 6 were a group of progressive reformers and so forth, academics and activists within Mormonism that were all excommunicated and kicked out of the church in the 1990s during one September, that hence the September 6. And this book will look at the larger sort of like struggles within Mormonism that led to, well, the progressive side being excommunicated, and I'm looking forward to this book. I think it's a good sort of like accompaniment to the mostly the biography of Ezra Taft Benson that I read earlier, so that's something I'm going to read as well. Beyond that, yeah, I still have to finish Wrestling the Angel, rereading Wrestling the Angel and Feeding the Flock by Terrell Gibbons, and after that I am hopefully finally done with all of it. Which means, of course, I'll have to actually get off my ass and read Elantris. That's the rough plan there. I'll try to also read something else. Maybe I'll figure out, maybe I'll get to just like reading Kirinya, so I can have like another actual book video out, even if other stuff doesn't happen this week. But that's certainly the plan for reading right now. Obviously, next week there will be interesting new releases that I will have to read anyway. Like, you know, there is the final part of the Ostenard, Last King of Ostenard series by Tad Williams, which means I can then read all 4 of those at some point. Then there is, of course, a collection of essays by David Graeber coming out next week that I'm very eagerly awaiting, but that's, you know, that's stuff for next week. So that's the reading plans for now. If there's something else that I missed that I really should read, I don't know, tell me about it in the comments and I'll do that. So, what about videos and stuff? I made one video. I made a video on the Fury of the Gods yesterday because I wanted to have at least one video out, which, you know, has happened now, so that's good. Beyond that, I have I made 2 of the promised, or sort of like I'll rambled about it, productivity, writing, whatever, sprints in the morning on, well, the 1st of November, which was Friday. And this morning, the idea there was to, just do like 45 minutes of writing or other writing adjacent productivity stuff, and then go and do something like 10 minutes talking or whatever, and then the thing again for like 2 hours before I then leave the house to go to the gym, so I maybe start being productive in some way, shape or form. Does it work? I don't know. I did write something on Friday. I did do a lot of like administrative bullshit this morning, which once again, I have to do, so it was certainly a form of productivity. And some people did join me, which is obviously good. Not many, but then again, 8 a.m. German time is probably a really bad time for like everyone in Europe, unless people don't have to work. And of course, on the other hand, it's very late at night for most people in the US, so it's a weird time. But then again, mostly I'm doing this for myself, to have like a reason to actually not just watch YouTube or whatever until I can, muster the energy to go to the gym. So I figured this may just work. So I'll keep doing this during the week for now. If I feel it doesn't work out, I will obviously stop doing that. But until then, that's the plan. So what about videos that are possibly happening this week? Well, I did start writing down stuff for parts of the Mormonism video, so those will be recorded this week. I have no idea if I'll be able to actually get the whole thing done this week. If not, I'll try to have at least one other video. Maybe I can come up with something. Kirinya would be an option. Maybe there's something else that I decide to quickly read, or maybe there is something else that comes up, the usual stuff. Something happens on booktube, I get like the impulse to rant about it, that kind of stuff. I don't know. We will see. That's sort of the plan right now. If you have an idea for a video and you're like, hey, could you please talk about this specific book thing? And ideally, it doesn't involve me having to read another, like, 500 books or whatever. You can always let me know in the comments. We will see. Which kind of brings me, I guess, to the rambly bits and parts, and I'll start with a question, because, of course, we need to farm engagement around here, right? So, as I said, I did just read this wonderful book, Wild Faith, How the Christian Right is Taking Over America, by Talia Levin. I really appreciated it. I really enjoyed it, and the question is, if I read some more non-fiction stuff, and I have a bunch of other non-fiction books that are not even related to Mormonism directly, on sort of the back burner that I'm just interested in as well. There's for example, a history of Palo Alto and capitalism and Silicon Valley and so forth, that I am very eager to read. And the question is, like, if I read nonfiction books of this sort, like they're slightly political, slightly historical fiction, not historical fiction, but historical nonfiction, that kind of stuff, is that something you want me to also make videos about? Because obviously, I'm a political person. You already know that, and my politics certainly impact how I read fantasy and science fiction and literary fiction and so forth, and that comes through in my videos. But obviously, talking about a book about the Christian right, a non-fiction book about the Christian right in America, is a whole another level of that, I guess, in a lot of ways. And I don't know how many of you are interested in these kind of non-fiction books. Obviously, discussing or reviewing non-fiction books is a very different sort of approach from fiction, because the things you look for are very different elements and so forth. I'm not sure if I'm really good at this, if I would be qualified to do so. Depends very much on, the kind of topic, I guess. So the question is that something you'd be sort of interested in? If not, that's totally fine. I'll just not do it. Because, yeah, go read those books. They're really good, but I don't necessarily know if that's something you're interested in. I have obviously done some videos on non-fiction books before. I talked about Orientalism by Edward Said, and I did talk about The Night Battles by Carlo Ginzburg before. But those are books where I felt that they are sort of like important secondary material to or can be helpful for fantasy and science fiction readers to recognize, on the one hand, ideas like Orientalism and how they spread through fiction writing as well. And on the other hand, obviously, with the Night Battles, it just being really damn cool and like a really cool and interesting and fun inspiration for, well, those of us who do either write fantasy or historical fiction, or those of us who play or run tabletop RPGs or anything of the sorts, because it's just a really cool thing, neat thing to know. Which, of course, explains why the Benandanti basically show up in Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay. I guess he also felt that it was a really cool thing. So that's why I was more comfortable, or not comfortable, like felt more safe or whatever with talking about those books. So anyway, let me know if you think that talking about some non-fiction books that I also read would be something you'd be interested in. Otherwise, we'll see. So that's kind of that. I am still taking part in the membership. Channel membership bootcamp thing. I am learning all the things on how to do or how not to do these channel memberships. I have still not decided whether I want to do them. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'll figure out how to do like the first level, so it's like basically like a $1 Patreon, but it's integrated in YouTube. It would probably mean like having some like customized emojis. I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with something. But as always with those monetary things, there's no need to support me monetarily or anything of the sorts. But if you have thoughts on that whole membership thing, if you've ever used it, like, I don't know, let me know how it works for you, if you've ever been like a YouTube channel member on like YouTube, because I haven't. So I'm curious to hear your sort of experience with it. If you have like expectations for that, I am always interested in that as well. And that obviously leads to me doing the whole Mormonism thing right now. There's an interesting thing, right, with politics that I have to unfortunately mention, which is there's this election happening right tomorrow in the US, and it's really, really important. And what with a history of the LDS Church and of Mormonism, especially in the way it sort of shifted fairly hard right in the 70s and 80s and aligned with the Christian right and with the evangelical Christianity in a lot of ways, means that I will have to talk politics in the Mormonism video in that regard. And now I'm like, should I wait until after the elections? Because that clearly could mean like my statements aging really, really poorly. And that's something I have to figure out. I don't know what I'll do about it, whether I'll just record today and hope that nothing important happens until afterwards, or whether I just wait until tomorrow. I honestly don't know. It's a weird time in general. I am obviously lucky in that I don't live in the US, and the immediate consequences are very minimal for me. But on the other hand, I can't vote there, right? Which also means that whatever happens there will obviously impact the rest of the world, because, you know, the USA is being pretty big in like global politics and shit, means I still suffer the consequences down the road at some point. So it's a weird time, I guess. But beyond that, I feel that I'm finally getting close to where I have done all the Mormonism research I need to do. I feel confident enough in doing this, in talking about it, and in creating that video. I think I have the structure mostly down. So I'm eager to get it out and finally move forward from here on out with that. We'll see how that goes. I may change my mind in the next hour or whatever, because life is that way for me. That's basically all I have for you today. I hope you had a successful last week. I hope you read good books. If you have like anything to tell me about all the questions I just raised, there's comments down there. Please use them. If you want to tell me something else, also use the comments. Read good books this week. Try not to let politics get you down too much. And I don't know. I'll see you very soon with something. Those of you who want to be productive tomorrow morning, I'll see you then. And until, well, whenever. Thanks for sticking with me. Like, subscribe, comment, do the good things, join the Patreon if you feel like it, all those wonderful things, and I'll see you in the next one. And until then, thanks and cheers.